Amid the fiery landscapes of the Imjin War, one man stood at the crossroads of ambition and diplomacy. Konishi Yukinaga, a Christian daimyo and the vanguard of the Japanese invasion of Korea, navigated the volatile currents of loyalty, honor, and survival. Torn between Toyotomi Hideyoshi's unrelenting conquest and his own disillusionment with war, Yukinaga's decisions would ripple through history, influencing the fate of nations. Born into a merchant family, Konishi Yukinaga rose to prominence under Toyotomi Hideyoshi's rule. A convert to Christianity, Yukinaga balanced his faith with the demands of a samurai's life. This duality shaped his pragmatic approach to warfare and governance. As one of Hideyoshi's trusted generals, he spearheaded the initial invasion of Korea, securing key victories, including the rapid capture of Busan. However, his strategic mind often clashed with the fervent aggression of his peers, particularly Kato Kiyomasa. Yukinaga's preference for diplomacy emerged starkly after the fall of Pyongyang. Recognizing the unsustainable nature of the war, he sought avenues for negotiation, believing peace could secure Japan's interests without further bloodshed. However, this stance placed him at odds with Hideyoshi's uncompromising vision of conquest and Kato Kiyomasa's militaristic zeal. Within the Japanese camp, Yukinaga's pragmatism was both a strength and a liability, earning him allies among moderates, but enemies among hardliners. Yukinaga's Christianity added another layer of complexity to his role in the war. As a devout Catholic, he fostered connections with European missionaries who saw in him a potential bridge between Japan and the West. These ties influenced his worldview, making him more inclined toward diplomacy and less tethered to the rigid honor codes of traditional samurai culture. Yet, his faith also made him a target of suspicion among his contemporaries, who questioned his loyalty to Hideyoshi's cause. The peace talks following the Battle of Pyongyang were fraught with mistrust and diverging ambitions. Ming envoys, weary of the mounting cost of war, sought to end the conflict through diplomacy. They proposed a settlement that would restore the Korean peninsula to King Seonjo, while offering Toyotomi Hideyoshi an honorary title as a means to placate his ego without ceding meaningful power. Hideyoshi, however, viewed such terms as an insult. He demanded recognition as the legitimate ruler of Korea and insisted that the Korean king pledge loyalty to him. In addition, he sought territorial concessions, including the southern provinces of Korea as Japanese-controlled zones. These demands were non-negotiable for both the Koreans and the Ming, who interpreted them as evidence of Hideyoshi's imperial overreach. Konishi Yukinaga, sensing the futility of such terms, privately urged for more realistic concessions. He suggested a compromise, the withdrawal of Japanese forces in exchange for trade privileges and symbolic gestures of recognition that would allow Hideyoshi to save face. However, his moderate stance alienated him from hardliners like Kato Kiyomasa, who saw any retreat as dishonorable and treasonous. As negotiations stalled, secret communications between Konishi and Ming envoys became a source of intrigue and suspicion. Kato Kiyomasa accused Konishi of betraying the Japanese cause, claiming he was undermining their position for personal gain. These allegations were not entirely unfounded. Konishi's Christian faith and ties to European missionaries made him a controversial figure, and his push for diplomacy contrasted sharply with the militaristic zeal of his peers. At the same time, the Ming court began to view Hideyoshi's behavior as treacherous. His simultaneous calls for peace and preparations for a second invasion undermined any goodwill generated during the talks. This duplicity emboldened Ming and Korean officials to harden their stance, interpreting Hideyoshi's demands as a prelude to further aggression rather than genuine reconciliation. In Korea, the situation grew even more precarious. King Seonjo, wary of both his allies and enemies, found his court divided over how to proceed. Some advisors pushed for continued resistance, while others feared Korea would become a pawn in the power struggle between Ming and Japan. This fractious political environment further destabilized the fragile coalition. The atmosphere of distrust and betrayal extended even to Korea's greatest hero, Admiral Yi Sun-sin. Despite his string of naval victories, Yi's growing influence and unyielding independence earned him powerful enemies within King Seonjo's court. Corrupt officials, jealous of Yi's fame and suspicious of his motives, manipulated the king into believing that Yi had defied royal orders by refusing to engage in an ill-conceived naval campaign. Yi's refusal stemmed from sound strategic reasoning. He recognized the plan as a trap that would jeopardize the Korean fleet. Nevertheless, his critics framed his actions as insubordination. In 1597, Yi was arrested, stripped of his command, and imprisoned. His downfall was a devastating blow to Korean morale and a stark reminder of the internal divisions that plagued the kingdom. Konishi's pragmatic approach to diplomacy was sabotaged from within. The depth of the mistrust on all sides was palpable. Hideyoshi's demands alienated potential allies, and Yi's imprisonment symbolized the perils of political infighting. These events set the stage for the resumption of hostilities, as all sides braced for the inevitable resurgence of war. Please subscribe to join the journey. Comment below to help in the algo, like, share, or don't. Thanks for watching.